It's a busy day for global markets with a number of factors impacting investor sentiment. We've been following U.S. GDP figures out today. That's the reading of economic activity in the first quarter of this year. And today, the second reading or revision was announced, data confirming that the economy contracted by 0.2%, a bit better than was expected previously, but that's still the first contraction since the beginning of 2002. And it's also worth mentioning that this data covers the first 3 months of the year, which means it doesn't include the full force of President Donald Trump's tariffs. And speaking of tariffs, we've had big news out of New York today with a court ruling that some of the president's tariffs were in fact unconstitutional. The Federal Court of International Trade, which is based in New York, ruled that the U.S. Constitution grants Congress the exclusive authority to regulate trade with other countries, and that Congress's power in that area supersedes the president's emergency powers to protect the economy. And here it's worth clarifying that when President Donald Trump imposed a range of tariffs, be it targeting specific countries, specific sectors, and those across the board reciprocal tariffs he announced on Liberation Day on the 2nd of April, he used a variety of emergency laws that he argued gave him, the president, the executive branch of government, the authority to do so without needing to go to Congress and to get their approval, essentially to put it to a vote to Congress. Now, this particular court is saying that was an overreach. The court is saying that he exceeded the limits of his executive power, and therefore those tariffs are unconstitutional. Now, it's also important to note that this ruling does not apply to all tariffs. It strikes down the tariffs Trump imposed under what is known as the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a law dating back to the late 1970s. And practically here, we are talking about those 10% reciprocal tariffs on all nations, some of the tariffs imposed on Canada, Mexico, and China. But we're not talking about the sectoral tariffs targeting specific sectors such as auto, steel, or aluminum. Those tariffs remain in place. And just to give some added background here, the reason there was a court ruling on this issue in the first place is because about a dozen U.S. states, led by the Attorney General of the state of Oregon, along with a number of businesses, brought a legal challenge against the Trump administration, saying that these tariffs were damaging the state economies. Now, for its part, the White House has rejected the court's authority, saying it's not up to unelected judges to decide how to address what the president considers a national economic emergency. Now, the court's decision can be appealed at the federal level, and the White House has indicated it will appeal. It could even potentially reach the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, as far as markets are concerned, this news has brought some short-term relief, but it does carry longer-term uncertainty. Will we now see a protracted legal battle over trade policy? How does that impact trade negotiations underway with the EU and also Japan? How will those countries respond? Will they plow ahead and continue talks, or want to wait and see? What about the deal already agreed with the United Kingdom? There is no doubt that this legal roadblock was welcomed by investors to a certain extent. But extended policy and legal uncertainty will inevitably impact investor sentiment going forward. And it could also lead to companies delaying decisions about hiring more employees in the United States and increasing their investments in the US. And at the end of the day, that is bad for the US economy.